Hello and welcome back to the All Out Soccer podcast, back from a mini soccer hiatus in the summer. We're the show that delivers the hottest takes and the freshest analysis on all things soccer in the USA. As usual, I'm your host, Jeremy Goldstein. I'm joined by Joseph McBride. Joe, how are we doing? How's it feel to be back?
Feels great. It's been a summer hiatus, as you said, pre-season now for us here. So I'm excited to get back into it.
MLS hasn't stopped, never stops. And we have some big news for the league, transfers, games, everything. Heung-Min Son is now in the MLS. Rodrigo De Paul is here. Thomas Muller is here. We're going to break down the transfers, analyze how each fit within with their respective clubs, plus some mini game recaps, plus even look at some underrated transfers that you may have missed. We're then going to blind rank the best teams in the MLS before we profile the biggest U.S. men's national team moves of the summer, plus some players to watch for the upcoming club season. Then we're going to have a mini debate on the very interesting Barcelona-Villarreal situation with the two sides set to play in Miami. Going forward, just quick little housekeeping. Half the pod will be kind of top-line MLS news related to key players, and the rest of the half will be U.S. men's national team focused with all eyes on the 2026 World Cup. Also look ahead for trivia, blind rankings, and stuff of that sort. And then, Joe, I'm going to pass it over to you now for the biggest news of the week.
Well, as you said, the bizarre news that the Spanish Football Federation has approved plans to host Villarreal versus Barcelona in Miami in December at Hard Rock Stadium. UEFA, FIFA, and CONCACAF need to approve the plans for that to go ahead, but a very, very controversial one in the European soccer world for sure. MLS Commissioner Don Garber has promised Cincinnati that they'll be playing an all-star game in the near future. He was at their disappointing 1-0 defeat on Sunday to Charlotte FC, but said as part of their anniversary plans that he can guarantee them an all-star game in the future. And former US men's national team prospect and what was meant to be the future star of US soccer, Freddie Adu, has said that he sees himself in Giovanni Reina. Now, Giovanni Reina still cannot seem to earn himself a move from Borussia Dortmund. Since that whole World Cup scandal with Greg Berhalter, his career has kind of been on hold. And Adu has made the situation probably a bit more worse for him by saying that he sees himself in Reina and doesn't understand where he goes from here. Back to you, Jeremy.
It's a weird one. Gio Reyna, man, he had the world at his feet about 5 years ago, and here he is, just a man without minutes. But he'd be a fit at any of these MLS clubs we're about to talk about. But I don't know if he'd play for LAFC, who just drew 2-2 with Chicago over the weekend in one of the better and more gripping MLS games I've seen in a while. Boanga wasn't ready to start. Heung-Min Son wasn't ready to start, who has told American broadcasters he doesn't mind being called Sonny on broadcast for that mini controversy going on. Pair of corners in the first half had things level at 1-1. And the game finished 2-2 eventually. Jonathan Bamba with a nice goal for Chicago in the second half. Dennis Boanga eventually subbed on, scored the penalty. That was created by a Heung-Min Son run through the middle, taken down on the back. Probably should have been a red card, wasn't called, but just an amazing occasion. Even on the road, there were so many fans in attendance just to see Heung-Min Son. Arguably the Premier League player of the last decade. If you look at, obviously, he's one of the only ones who's been there for the last decade, in contention with Mo Salah, in contention with Harry Kane as one of the more popular Premier League players I can remember from I'm growing up. I'm 26 years old. He's kind of just been a ubiquitous figure there. I remember when he came, it took him a little bit to get situated, but one of the most consistent performers of all time. For MLS fans who aren't as used to watching Heung-Min Son, what kind of player is he? Obviously, he was arguably the most dangerous transitional player for Tottenham for many, many years. You think about the 2019 Champions League quarterfinal against Manchester City when they're without Harry Kane. He scores two quick first half, just banger of goals against City, away goals back when we did that before, the world changed. Tremendous player, tremendous finisher, ambidextrous, ambipedalist, whatever you want to call someone who could shoot with both feet. Last year, he had 7 goals and 9 assists in the Premier League, helped Tottenham win the Europa League. He's not as fast as he used to. He kind of played through the middle a little bit in this game. I expect him to play through the middle going forward for LA. Obviously, no more Olivier Giroud in town. The club still has Jeremy Abobasi, who is out today as a striker. So Timothy Tillman lined up as kind of a false nine. But with Heung-Min Son and Dennis Bouanga, you have, in my opinion, the two of the three best players in the league. I mean, we're going to see how Heung-Min Son looks. He has to, pass those initial tests. We would have thought Olivier Giroud would have been the best striker in the league, and he wasn't. If he shows form over the course of the next few weeks, I immediately think he's one of the best players in the league. And Dennis Bouanga, in my opinion, is the best player in the league outside of Lionel Messi. I think this is really, really exciting for LAFC. I think they're immediately back in the title conversation. People bashed on their Club World Cup run, which I think they got a little unlucky in some of their games. I think this is absolutely crazy. And let me just add in, Heung-Min Son, it ended up costing $26 million for LAFC, which is a lot of money for a player on the wrong side of 30 who will never recoup a transfer fee back for him. He could pay here for a year, he could stay for 2 years, but talk about also the impact of Korean fans being on board with him in Southern California. I just think this is a home run transfer. It's a little too much money for me, but it's a little dollar foolish, but I'm just so excited to see Heung-Min Son in the MLS, Joe. I mean, it's pretty cool, right?
It's insane. He is probably the best Asian player of all time. Before it was like Ji-Sung Park when we were growing up for Man United. And it's a big fee for the guy on the wrong side of 30, but the money they're going to get back for that in terms of fan, engagement and all the rest of it. I mean, Tottenham really, really benefited from that on top of him being a world-class player too. And you were saying there that he scored 7 goals last year. There was a clear drop-off in his form last year, and for him to still get 7 Premier League goals is still pretty impressive. I think he's going to absolutely tear up this MLS league, honestly, and I'm excited to see it. He deserves to have a good run there, and it was quite nice and wholesome. I don't know if you saw him and Hugo Lloris, the former Tottenham players, linking up. That's going to do the world of good for both of them too. So it's great news for LAFC.
If you remember their clash in the tunnel a few years ago, as documented in the Amazon documentary, was not pretty. But obviously, those guys have been teammates for 8 years and very, very close. Just one quick note on Heung-Min Son. Historically, again, elite in transition. Olivier Giroud, at this age of his career, not elite in transition. Dennis Bouanga, arguably the best transition player in North America. Just give him the ball in space, let him dribble, let him create. You have him and Son running together. I think that's a really, really exciting combination. And that's what I'm most looking forward to see. Miami didn't go for another forward. Thank God they didn't need one. Instead, they went for a midfielder.
Yeah, I'm still shocked about this one as well. They signed Rodrigo de Paul, 31-year-old midfielder from Atletico Madrid on a 4-year contract, which is a statement on as well. I mean, usually you still see deals from Europe go 2, maybe 3 years max with a player option, but yeah, $17.5 million from Atletico Madrid. I think he's maybe not world class anymore, but he is a fantastic midfielder. He was in La Liga team of the season last year. He's international teammates with Lionel Messi and a bunch of the other Argentine lads at Miami. It's just a great signing. Having Sergio Busquets as a stalwart in the middle, being able to get the ball straight into De Paul, who then can spread the ball to Messi and Suarez, is just going to be a dream link up. But unfortunately for his first MLS game, it was not. Messi was absent. He's injured. They lost 4-1 on the road to Orlando, who haven't actually been that good at home. They've only won 5 of 12 games heading into that clash at home. But it started off really, really strong for Orlando in that game. Luis Muriel scored in 2 minutes. Yannick Bright tied the game pretty much instantly after for Miami. And they were the better team in the first half, but second half, it was a completely different story. Muriel scored again to make it 2-1. Then Martin Ojeda made it 3-1 inside the hour mark, and Miami just completely capitulated. Then Luis Suarez almost scored an absolute screamer from about 30 yards, tried to lob the goalkeeper, but fantastic save from Gillespie. And then Marco Pasalic made it 4-1 late on, but it was a complete contrast. I mean, since the Club World Cup, Miami have been pretty solid. They've won all 3 of their Leagues Cup games, which De Paul has featured in all 3 of them. He scored a goal and got 2 assists in those 3 games, so he's looking very promising. But in terms of MLS, was not great. I mean, he had 11 attempted crosses during the game. None of them were complete. It wasn't a great game for him, but they're missing their main man who needs to come back. They got LA Galaxy up next on August 16th, and then they had the Leagues Cup quarterfinal against Tigres after that, which they'll need Messi back for ideally. But Miami is a bit of a tough one because of their Club World Cup participation and other games being rescheduled. They're actually 3 games behind most of the people in the East. So if they won their 3 games in hand, they'd be on 51 points, joint with Philadelphia at the top. So they made it like they're in 6th right now. It looks a bit strange. It's kind of, why they're struggling, but they're not. They'll be back. And once he gets into fine form, they're going to be such a good team. I think he's a brilliant player, definitely one to watch. And, he's going to be there probably after Messi departs. So he's going to maybe take on that flame. He can play anywhere. He can play a 10. He can play a 6. He can even play a 4 further back. Really versatile midfielder. And I think a great signing for Miami.
What do you think? I think this is going to be an interesting litmus test. So this is a player moving in the middle of his career. What do you think this means for DePaul's standing in the Argentine national team? Obviously, he's still going to get eyeballs from the Argentine Federation, but he's playing with Messi. And he's someone who was a key member of their 2022 World Cup team. Do you think there's still a clear pathway? Do you think the perceived league hit, difference is going to impact his standing and potentially earning a spot next summer's World Cup team?
I think he'll still be involved. I don't know if he'll start as often. I mean, they've got so many talented players, but he's competing with the likes of McAllister and Paredes are still hanging on there. He's gone back to Boca, I believe, but that level of competition in MLS in centre mid is very different to what it is like at Atletico Madrid. But I think the times are changing though. I think there's so many, as we've seen this window, Son, DePaul. We'll get into more transfers later, but it's been such an exciting window. So I feel like the tide is starting to turn. But I don't think he's going to be perceived the same as he would be if he was playing in a Champions League quarterfinal for Atletico Madrid, for example.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting test to see how international managers view the MLS. Especially, they have no choice if someone's playing alongside Messi. One player who's no longer in the international picture is Thomas Muller, but he is in the Canadian picture as he has moved to Vancouver on an interesting transfer where, again, we have to talk about discovery rights, where Vancouver had to pay Cincinnati $400,000 for Muller's discovery rights. In any other league in the world, if he wanted to go to Vancouver, he goes to Vancouver, not in the MLS. I think there are some merits to the discovery system. You don't want it to be too skewed towards everyone wants to go to Miami, everyone wants to go to an LA team. But, it's just a little weird in situations like this. Clearly, you have a major international player, a former World Cup winner who wants to go to a certain club, and he has to haggle with the system. We don't ever want it to be an international player wants to come play in North America, and they are hung up on some discovery rights bender, and then they're unable to play. But anyway, Thomas Muller's in the door. He didn't play in their most recent game, which was a 2-1 defeat to San Jose. San Jose just loaded with attacking talent, Christian Arango, Espinoza. Great team. It was an exciting game. I think Jaden Nelson looked absolutely amazing for Vancouver, and he kind of can do his best to replicate some of those amazing wingers that Muller played with at Bayern Munich, Michael Elise in recent years, Franck Ribéry. Yes, I'm saying Jaden Nelson is in that conversation. I don't know if you've watched any of that game. Jaden Nelson literally looks like Jeremy Doku when he's dribbling and attacking the box. Same thing. You want a little more end product from him. I think he's absolutely sensational. There's a tough red card given on Ocampo on Vancouver that kind of the game deteriorated. They went down 1-0. Brian White scored an absolute wonder goal at the end. I don't know if you saw that, make it 1-1. But Preston Judd scored the winner in injury time. Crazy celebration that was really real captured by the MLS. Where does Muller fit into the picture? He's an old man. Well, he's actually only in his mid-30s, 35, 36. But he has been playing since he was a teenager. He was playing in the 2010 World Cup. That's where I became familiar with him and just kind of fell in love with this gangly, unathletic, weird-looking guy who was just such a machine. And he's had ups and downs within the Bayern team. He's played on the wing. He's played as the lone striker. He's played as, his Raumdeiter in attacking midfield. He had 5 goal involvements last year in 12 starts, which is more than I thought he had. Vancouver play a 4-3-3. Where will he play? Wingers, you have Nelson on one wing, you have Ahmed, you have all these other kind of skillful wingers underneath on the side of Brian White, who Brian White, club captain, has to play. So that means you're going to play Muller underneath him. Are you going to not start Muller? You're going to move White to the wing. Ryan Gauld's also coming back. Obviously, doesn't have the same profile as Muller, but he's a creative player. They're going to play Gauld and Muller and the front three. That just leaves you a little exposed. They also just lost Pedro Vite. He was sold. It's going to be an interesting alchemy for Vancouver going forward. Obviously, this is an amazing team, and having Thomas Muller is a good problem to have. It's also not going to play every week. I'm just curious about the fit, because just with everything. I would think Thomas Muller might have done a little better in a 4-4-2 with an MLS team as a second striker. I don't know, but it's Thomas Muller. He figures things out. He fits in kind of anywhere, but obviously this is his first time playing for a team besides Bayern Munich. I'm just really excited. I could rant about this one for a long time. Thomas Muller's in the MLS. It's crazy. He's an amazing player, and he's so fun, and he'll be so good for media, marketing, everything. What an affable gentleman. I absolutely love this man.
He's one of my favorite players ever, genuinely. And he's a German icon. I mean, he's literally won everything. Such a guy, such a gentleman as well. But no, I agree with your point about where does he fit. I think he's best as like a false nine or a supporting striker. He's got such a good touch. He's got a great, history of scoring headers, did so in the Champions League final way back in the day. I think he can be a great player, but the fit, I agree. I'm not sure where it happens, but it's a great problem to have, like you said. Moving on, also, another big transfer, one I'm very excited about, Wessam Abu Ali. He's joined to the Columbus Crew, $7.5 million deal from the Egyptian Premier League giants Al Ahly. He didn't play this weekend. Their game was strangely postponed against New York City FC because of baseball. They were meant to play at City Field. The field is being...
Hell yeah.
The field is being kept for only baseball activities for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And in response, it's being rescheduled currently for September 17th, I believe, at Yankee Stadium. So they've gone from the Mets to the Yankees. It is what it is. But I'm excited for this signing. He starred in the Club World Cup. He played well in all 3 group games. He scored a hat-trick against FC Porto in a thrilling 4-4 draw, which is one of the games of the group stages. Only 26 years old. Jeremy and I were speaking before this. We kind of expected him to maybe earn a move to a kind of second-tier European team. But no, he's gone to MLS, and it's exciting. He's filled a vacant DP spot that was vacated still from Cucho Hernandez. They've now added Daniel Gazdag and Wessam Abu Ali. So excited to see how they go going forward. But 28 goals in 35 Premier League games in Egypt over the last 2 seasons. He's a proven striker, Palestinian international. It's going to be exciting to see how he fits in. But definitely not an under-the-radar one just because of the fee, but he's relatively unproven at this level, but I think, if he can hit the ground running, he can become a real star in this league.
I think it's always fascinating when the MLS turns to different markets for players. Obviously, Amal Pellegrino came to San Jose last year from Norway. His goal scoring record didn't exactly translate. It's just interesting to see, if this move works, then will you see MLS clubs looking at other North African leagues and saying, oh, well, he scored 30 goals in Morocco. Maybe he can bang in the MLS. It's just going to be, I think it's always interesting to see, the MLS is still continuing to use itself as a measuring stick against these other leagues in the world. Let's see how this one works. And obviously for Columbus' sake, for everyone involved with this transfer, I hope it works out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he can be, he's relatively unproven, like I said, and he could become the next star, the next Cucho that maybe did get sold on for 20 odd million to La Liga, or maybe by then MLS would be even more established and, they can kind of fight to keep them longer. But I think it's a great progression. I'm excited to see how he gets on. He was one of the talking points from the Club World Cup, which just showcases how that competition can be a platform for players to earn, high profile moves. He might not have got that if he didn't feature in that competition. Yeah, it's just really exciting summer, or just all around for MLS.
Yeah, so much chaos from the Club World Cup, but injuries and money going all the big clubs and blah blah blah. But you do have these stories and these players who are platformed on a world stage that might not have previously been, and then they end up with career changes. And I think that's really really exciting. We have some under the radar signings going on. I think Joe's might have a particular English flavor. I did flag one English player, but not for good reason. Under the radar being I think he's going to come in and be terrible. But Joe, I want to hear some. Give me one of your English ones to start. I know they're English. We haven't discussed this. I just know at least one of them is.
This one's under the radar, but also I'm slightly confused by it, but also very intrigued. Steven Alzate to Atlanta United. He joined from Hull City. He spent 1 year there. He's been at Brighton and Hove Albion for years, out on loan here, there, and everywhere. Saw him play at Brighton in the Premier League. He was a very, highly rated talent back then. But he signed a 6-year contract with Atlanta, which is pretty unheard of in MLS. But he's an experienced player. He's only 26. He spent time in Belgium on loan. I feel like this could be a real opportunity for him to perform because he's kind of lost his way recently. But he looked pretty good at Hull last year, and he's obviously got the attention of Atlanta, who are looking very often at the Championship, as we've seen.
That is a very interesting move. I did notice that in Alzate. I remember I looked at his FB recently. I was like, how many clubs does this guy play for? That's a good one. One I picked that was a little rogue, Victor Olatunji to Salt Lake. He's a striker from Sparta Prague. They had to pay a little small fee to DC United to smooth things over discovery rights wise. They paid $2.5 million though for the 25-year-old. Salt Lake City also brought in Ron Cruz from Botafogo on loan earlier this summer. They've had no striking play at all, any quality this year. It's kind of been Diego Luna has been responsible for scoring every goal for that team. I just think it'll be good for them to have someone. Olatunji, 6'4" striker, scored 14 goals last year in all competitions, including a bunch in Champions League qualifying. They needed a body, and they have two now in Olatunji and Cruz. And I just be like, anyone is better than no one that they had previously. And that team hasn't been that exciting. So hopefully it'll give someone next to Luna. I have one to flop. I picked Rob Holding.
I knew that.
Rob Holding sucks. I think Rob Holding, well and truly, is a terrible, terrible player. When William Saliba got hurt in 2023 with Arsenal in the title race, they brought in Rob Holding to start, and oh my God, he was awful. I don't know if you remember that 2-2 draw Arsenal-Liverpool at Anfield in 2023. Liverpool should have won that game. Rob Holding was awful. He then moved on to Palace, didn't play at all, was playing with the Premier League 2 side, went on loan last year to Sheffield United, had a few starts. Colorado playing a back three. Maybe that'll protect him. I just don't think this is a good player. I just think this was a player who happened to play for Arsenal when he was young and is therefore perceived as being a good player. But I do not think he is a good player.
I'm hoping that his experience comes true. I know that Arsenal played a very high line, and unfortunately for him, he wasn't exactly blessed with pace, and he kind of lost his way towards the end. But I have high hopes for him. Always nice to see an English defender do well. Slightly biased, not sure why, but I've got another English link for under the radar. It's Ronaldo Vieira. Now, if you were a fan of Leeds United or in the Championship, kind of 2016 to 18 time, he was a pretty key player in the middle of the park. He signed for San Jose Earthquakes from Sampdoria, who he played for a number of seasons, first in Serie A. They got relegated recently to Serie B. But he's a solid midfielder, 27 years old. He was also meant to be a future star. It never quite worked out that way. He was very highly thought of in the English youth ranks, won 2 Toulon tournaments, which is, youth international competition with them in successive years. Never quite hit the heights, but, he was a key player for Leeds. And I think at this level of his career and, if you can kind of control that midfield, you become a really, really big player for San Jose.
I think it's a good shout. San Jose, obviously, in my opinion, one of the most exciting teams in the MLS. Just one quick one last, just want to note, Matt Turner's back in the MLS playing for the Revolution. I think it could be a really big move. Just with an eye on next summer. He's now starting. He's going to get minutes week in, week out. He still may very well be the starter next year. I don't see a reason why he won't be. And now this is why he's back in the MLS on loan from Olympique Lyon, who paid a weird amount of money for him. Some money laundering going on with that one, but I could talk about that. That's for another podcast.
Yeah, that's a bit dodgy with the whole Palace situation at the moment over in Europe. So, who knows what's going on there? Lyon, Palace, and Botafogo all doing all sorts. Yeah,
any more quick-fire transfers just before we go into our top 5?
It's not under the radar one, but I'd be feeling bad if I didn't mention it. Djordje Mihailovic from the Colorado Rapids joining Toronto, $8 million, potentially $9 million. I think it's second largest cash trade in MLS history. I'm really excited by it. Obviously, it's been a sad time for Toronto, losing Lorenzo Insigne, finally. And also Bernardeschi has gone to Bologna. Happy for him. That whole Italian experiment just hasn't worked. And I think it's a smart decision not to go out and, roll the dice for another European guy. Obviously, he's European, but in terms of for a European team, they've gone for a proven player in MLS that wanted to move. Really, really good proven player. And I just hope that, he sorts out the Toronto attack because they've been very disappointing for a number of seasons and they need some sort of spark. So going for experience is maybe a better idea to ground them at this stage.
And Toronto got a good result over the weekend against Philadelphia. Yeah. Surprising result. Anyway, I'm sure Philly will be mentioned in our top 5s. I have them. I'm sure you have them. If you didn't have them, that means you haven't been following the MLS. Let's go through this one by one. Joe, starting at number 5. Okay, does that work?
Yeah.
I have Miami at 5.
Snap. So do I. I also have Miami at 5. We agree on something.
Yep. I just couldn't justify leaving them out. They're really good. They look really good in the Leagues Cup. I thought at the end, even without Messi, did enough to advance. There's still a lot of fragility in transition, which is a sore spot that I've noticed more teams are taking advantage of. If you watch the highlights against Orlando, DePaul hypothetically can supply the legs and still contribute in attack as he has for most of his career. He's always been a really energetic player, but I don't know. This team, it's like teetering. They're either going to be really good or really bad if they get exposed, but I had to keep them in the list.
Yeah, and at 4, I don't know if we're saying on this one or if it's just a one hit. Even though they've had a bit of a slump recently, I've had to list Vancouver at number 4. They're still in there for me. They're still lingering around as one of the top teams. Maybe Muller can put them to that next level, but they still have to be in the top 5 for me.
I have them at 2.
Oh, wow. I've been harsh then.
They plus 15 goal difference. The attack profiles is really elite going forward. Obviously, with Ryan Gauld coming back, it's a bet on the future. They were so good to start the season before they slipped, kind of post that CONCACAF Cup defeat. Tristan Blackman, I think they're going to be good. I have them at 2. That's a little ambitious. They're my top team in the West. At my number 4 spot, I'd be surprised if you had them in the top 5. I went this is purely based on form, I put Orlando in.
No, I rate that. I think they've been one of the best teams recently. I did leave them out probably harshly, but I think they deserve to be in there on the trajectory they're on for 100%.
Their attack is just so good. Martin Ojeda is playing well. Pasalic, the new signing, playing well. Muriel playing well. They have and then at least 3 or 4 other key contributors in attack who all look stunning. Really, really fun side all of a sudden. And they kind of put it all together. So I put them in my top 5 just based on just recent form. Obviously, also great Leagues Cup campaign. Number 3, who do you have?
FC Cincinnati. I know they got a tough loss at the weekend, but I still think they're one of the best teams. You called it from the start of the season, to be fair. They were going to be up there, and they have been, so kudos to you. But they're number 3 for me. Don't make their top 2.
They're not in my top 5.
Not at all. Wow.
Too many 1-0 victories, too much reliance on Evander. It's not quite. Denke is coming off the bench. I don't know. They make me a little nervous. I think they're still like too reliant on variance. I think if you took Evander off this team, they would be nowhere near my top 10 even. But I think it's an interesting shot. And they have banked a lot of points, and they're going to be big players in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. I have LAFC at 3. Again, this is a bet on the future. This is a bet on what the squad will look like with Son and Boang up forward. They currently have the best XG difference in the league. They still have some interesting players in midfield, but I slotted LAFC at 3. I assume they don't make your top 10 list. It was a bit of a rogue shout, and again, a future bet how they would perform the rest of the way.
No, they don't make my top 5. Should we just do the 1-2 as a reveal to get it over?
Well, my 2 is Vancouver.
True. Okay.
So,
well, mine is San Diego.
I figured they were a harsh omission for me. I'm just nervous about them regressing. No.
Criminal. Yeah, San Diego, I think I almost put them at 1, which my 1, I'm just going to say, Philadelphia Union, they have to be there.
They're
Most
there for me too.
Absolutely flying, but San Diego right now just looks so good. So it's close.
Just to do a quick update of the MLS table as a whole, we have Philadelphia top, 51 points through 26. Just 2 points ahead of San Diego with 49 in 26 games, level with Cincinnati on 49 in 26 games, but obviously San Diego much better goal difference. Nashville didn't make the cut for any of us, 47 in 26 games. Vancouver 45 in 25, and then Orlando 44 in 26 games. Miami a little further down in 9th, but as we mentioned, games in hand. And LA all the way down in 13th, but awesome games in hand, and it gets really bunched. Do you have any honorable mentions? I have just 2 to shout out. One was San Diego, and then the other was the most informed team in the MLS is Seattle, who I think are coming. I assume you saw the Pedro de la Vega goal in the Leagues Cup. Oh my God.
one of the nicest goals, and it was like so satisfying. He hit the post, hit the back bar, and then hit the other post. I didn't even touch the net. It was just unbelievable. But yeah, Orlando was my honorable mention. So
there you go. And De La Vega had an amazing assist over the weekend in an absolute drubbing over the LA Galaxy, who I said were going to make the playoffs. You didn't hear anything from me. But wow, Seattle looked really, really fun all of a sudden. All right, Joe, we're going to take a quick little break.
We've gone long.
Yeah, 31. Oh, well. I mean, the second half was not as long. I just got a little wafty in my
No, we both.
Son and Muller, but just I think also going forward, it'll be good to tighten up on things going forward. Just not being rambly. All right, I'll do the break read and then pass it off to you to discuss Cardoza. All right. No cuts, though, by the way.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm smashing it.
All right, so 32, I'll do the read. Don't forget to get involved in the conversation using the hashtag AllOutSoccer on socials, dropping an email to alloutfootball@reachplc.com, or by subscribing to the show. That's the end of part 1 of this week's All Out Soccer, but stick around for part 2 just after the break. And we're back. A little U.S. men's national team focus to start. A lot of amazing transfers. I mean, I'm sure if you added it all up, the transfer fees from this transfer window on U.S. players probably totals as much as it ever collectively. Probably not, because Christian Pulisic is, non-Pulisic division. If you take the, it'll probably add up. Someone understands the math I'm saying. One player went for a lot is Johnny Cardozo, excuse me.
Yeah, $35 million to Atletico Madrid from Real Betis, who, I assume is just a direct replacement for Rodrigo de Paul, who just left. So, I mean, for them, it's great. For the money, seeing as half of that fee was, if not more, was from DePaul. Sound investment. Tottenham Hotspur had first refusal on him, although he rejected the deal. So a little caveat in that agreement they thought they had. He didn't want Spurs. He wanted to stay in Spain. Just such a talented player. Obviously, we've seen him on the US men's national team picture. He's a boy from New Jersey, but they moved with his family to Brazil at the age of 3, played in the youth system there. So he's got that, just Brazilian iconic flair in him. Just so good going forward. He 45 appearances for Betis last season, only 4 goals, but one of them was against Real Madrid, which was won the goal as well. So he saves it for when it matters. Great move for him. Great for the US moving forward, playing at a very competitive team and under a very disciplined manager in Diego Simeone. So that's only going to be beneficial for the US.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really exciting one to watch. And again, you want players playing for the biggest clubs ahead of the World Cup. It will only increase the profile of the U.S. men's national team. I think that's a big one. I'm going to talk about Malik Tillman, who moved for 35 million euros to Bayer Leverkusen from PSV. 15 goals in all competitions last year. And he also has a tremendous, tremendous work rate. That just really pops whenever you watch him. You can see that watching him play for the U.S. men's national team this summer. Incredibly skillful on the ball, too. Really well-rounded player. He's an attacking midfielder, and he's joining a Bayer Leverkusen side under Erik ten Hag, who's going to continue Xabi Alonso's 3-4-3 with the inverted wingers/attacking midfielders. He's going to probably start at that left midfielder, left wing position. Let's see how it fits. He hasn't played this preseason yet for a variety of reasons, coming back from the U.S., injuries. Obviously, Leverkusen have looked absolutely terrible this preseason and have lost a ton of key players, so he could be entering a chaotic situation. But I think he has a really good chance to cement himself as a starter potentially on the left wing for the U.S. men's national team with a strong season. He just earned a big move, and this is a player who's all of a sudden one of the U.S.'s most important forwards, in my opinion. Quickly on another forward who's transferred is Timothy Weah. 6 goals last season for Juventus. Now he will be playing for Marseille following a 15 million euro move. Roberto De Zerbi is an intense man. He is the manager of Marseille. I don't know if you saw that clip recently of him berating Canadian midfielder Ismail Kone, who then prompted his transfer. One of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Weah can play both at right back and right wing. Current right back for Marseille is Amir Murillo, Panamanian player, older, much more defensive minded. Do you know who the right winger is for Marseille?
Not anymore. I haven't watched for that team in a while. Greenwood.
Mason Greenwood.
Oh yeah, of course.
Who, going to save his off the field conversation for another time. Did have a very prolific season last year. I think Weah is going to go back into this sort of Swiss Army knife role, and that's probably not great for him for getting into the U.S. men's national team starting lineup. He definitely will play. I think he'll be one of the first subs off the bench, but just in terms of getting a guaranteed starting attacking spot, it doesn't look like the best move for him, but we'll see how it works out. There's been a flurry of other transfers, especially in the championship, regarding American players too.
Yeah, so I was saying about Atlanta poaching a lot of, championship talent. Well, there's been some going the other way. Patrick Adjuman happened earlier in the window, but $8 million move to Derby County. Charlotte did all they could to keep him, but eventually he forced the move through, let's be honest. He hasn't played yet. They lost 3-1 in their season opening game to Stoke City. He's dealing with an injury, but he's played a lot for the US in recent months, and he's going to be really pushing for Ricardo Pepi and Josh Sargent, etc., for that starting role. Behind him, younger, but also dreaming high. Damian Downs, 4-year deal at Southampton, $9.5 million move from FC Cologne, who he helped to get promoted to the Bundesliga. 11 goals last season, very, very impressive stuff. And to join a team like Southampton, who are one of the favourites to be promoted straight back to the Premier League, is very exciting for him, having potentially a US forward in the Premier League if they do so. A team that's just come up to the Championship, so more of a third tier, but hopefully they'll stay. They got a 1-0 win, Charlton Athletic. Charlie Kellman joined them in a $5 million deal. He was a Queen's Park Rangers forward, but he was on loan at Leyton Orient last year, who were battling Charlton for promotion. And he scored an impressive 21 goals, which at any level is impressive. So really, really exciting time for, offensive US players.
Yeah, and he's not the only forward in the championship. Haji Wright, who didn't start for Coventry City, came off the bench, but he still profiles as arguably the best U.S. player in the championship if Josh Sargent leaves. He had a 21 million euro move, which is a pretty good fee considering where Josh Sargent was about 5 years ago, to Wolfsburg that fell apart because Sargent rejected the move, couldn't agree to personal terms. He's been linked to Leeds and Burnley late in the window, both clubs that were promoted into the Premier League. He did score a goal over the weekend on a weird block. I don't know if you saw it, as Norwich lost 2-1 to Millwall. They have signed his replacement, a big Danish forward named Mathias Kvistgaarden, I believe, from Denmark, for about $8 million. So they have been future-proofing this move. I think it's probably time for Sargent to leave. I think he's established himself as probably the best striker in the championship, which is really, really cool. Being this incredibly raw player when he came over from Germany a few years ago. Obviously scored a few goals in the Premier League during Norwich's season, but has kind of taken to the championship well, which is a really, really good sign. Does he go back to the Prem? Does he go back to Germany? I don't know what's the best move for him. I don't know if he accomplishes anything more than he hasn't. I guess for him, it's just like, if I have another good season in the championship where I score 17, 18 goals, I look better for the U.S. men's national team versus taking a risk where I could find myself on the bench somewhere else. It's an interesting one to monitor. I think he's the current number 2 striker for the U.S. men's national team. And again, we haven't mentioned Florian Balogun, who's had a kind of a nightmare since moving to Monaco in terms of fitness. But I think the striker position is obviously where all eyes are going to be this season if you're scouting the U.S. men's national team. We each picked out a player to watch. I put a little focus on the striker position, but Joe, where did you look for that target?
Player to watch the season for me is Chris Richards, centre-back, Crystal Palace. Obviously, he's become one of the key players in Mauricio Pochettino's US team. 25-year-old centre-back. He just gets better every time I see him. He was incredible in the FA Cup final when they beat Manchester City last season, their first major trophy. Just incredible occasion for them. And unfortunately, they beat Liverpool in the Community Shield recently, the little Super Cup that they do in England before the start of the season, where the league and cup winner face off. It was a 2-2 draw, and Palace won by penalties because of their goalkeeper, Dean Henderson. Another bit of heroics from him. But Chris Richards, in my opinion, was the best defender, more central defender for Palace on the day. And seeing his partner alongside him, Mark Guay, he's linked with a big move to Liverpool. That's impressive to say the least. So really, really big season for him to step up that extra level before the World Cup, because that's going to be a key role for the US stopping all of the opposition. Hopefully they face later in the tournament.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see Richards in Europe. Hopefully they take on a top side at some point. Doesn't look like it's going to be in the Europa League. Looks like it's going to be in the Conference League. But hopefully they take on a top side. We can see him against some exciting competition. I went for Ricardo Pepi, who is now the unquestioned striker at PSV. At one point, he was leading the Golden Boot race in the Netherlands because of some injury to incumbent starter Luke de Jong, and Pepi got off to a really hard start, and then he got hurt. De Jong has moved to Porto in a surprise move. Pepi is the starter. I think he's going to have a great season. He's already comfortable in that league. He was a big part of the U.S. men's national team when they were qualifying for the 2022 World Cup once upon a time when he was still at Dallas. I think he's going to have a big year. I think he's going to score more than 20 league goals, which is going to be really, really cool. He's going to attract Premier League interest, or he's going to attract interest from, the big Champions League clubs. And he's going to go into the World Cup on a major, major high, score some goals of the World Cup, and then earn that big move. That's my Ricardo Pepi 365-day prediction a year out. Really fun just to see him finally put it all together.
Yeah, bold. I think he's impressive. I loved him at FC Dallas. Thought he was a real future star, and he's just gone leaps and bounds since moving to Europe. So definitely the number one, and I hope he has a big season.
All right, so we're going to finish off the podcast today just touching on some news. And this is one that's a little troubling, I think, for both of us, is Barcelona and Villarreal, in what will be a Villarreal home game, are set to face off around the week of December 21st in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium in a La Liga season fixture. This is finally approved by the Spanish Federation. U.S. Soccer, quote, will not stand in the way of any move. Obviously, they've had an antitrust suit going on with La Liga and FIFA about blocking the move, and they don't want to do it, and they don't want to block any territory rights. So we're going to see potentially, and I say potentially, I mean most likely, a Spanish league fixture being played in the United States. And my initial worry is not about this game in particular, which I think will be, cool and exciting, but about what this means for generally the structure of organized professional football going forward. Has America gone too far in dipping its roots in other places and showcasing, look, we could play NFL games in London. You can do it too, when it means such a different thing to fans across Europe, South America, and other parts of the world about how a league season should be structured. And in America, obviously, it's done a little more flimsily. I'm just nervous about what this means and what precedent this sets. I'm not surprised this is happening. I don't know. How did you feel when you first saw this news?
I was surprised just because I wasn't aware of it, but also not totally shocked, if that makes any sense. I feel like this has been coming for a long time. I've been saying for years, I don't think it's going to be decades until there's a Premier League game played in America, or the whole sport is kind of global. Not saying I agree with it, but the Super League was agreed only about 4 or 5 years ago, and these top teams wanted to pivot away from their traditional leagues and then create this big conglomerate and play wherever. I've also heard this tinfoil hat time, but removing away goals in certain competitions so it doesn't make it matter too much if there's a home or a neutral venue. I think, like you said, like lead by example, the NFL is becoming totally international now. I mean, there's games in Spain, Mexico, London, Germany. Baseball even has a summer series, elsewhere. The NBA has a game in London that they've just announced. Obviously, Paris. It's just becoming a thing. And I mean, the Spanish Super Cups have really been held in Saudi Arabia. It's very different for a league fixture. I completely get that. What I think is interesting is I brought this up, earlier to you. Villarreal president Fernando Roig has obviously been met with severe backlash because that's one of the key fixtures that Villarreal fans look for when they, buy their season tickets. He said that anyone that attends the game in Miami will have free travel. So like a massive incentive to kind of give them a free holiday, I guess. And if they decide not to go, they're going to get 20% refunded off their season ticket. Obviously, that's just one of 19 home games. So to have a 20% discount for that is pretty insane. So I don't like it. Like, it is what it is, but at the same time, you can't have your cake and eat it. speaking of someone from London, when the NFL came for the first time and I got to go and, see it and see what it was all about, it was such an insane feeling. But we're very traditionalists in soccer and like to keep things as it is. And we don't want it to be Americanized sometimes. But then again, we cheer for another sport. I don't like it. It still needs FIFA and UEFA clearance. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they side with it. I think FIFA is probably quite locked into the States being, a hub for the future. The UEFA, not so much. But yeah, I don't like it, but I sadly think, not to be too pessimistic, it's just a sign of what's to come.
Yeah, new FIFA office opened in New York recently. Donald Trump was out there celebrating the Club World Cup with Cole Palmer and Chelsea. America is happy to be a facilitator to this, and FIFA have finally found a wealthy nation that doesn't have the sports washing tag that a lot of other countries it's gone to bed with has, that it can make a lot of money in. And for me, this is a form of sports. This is all a form of sports washing to some extent. For Barcelona, I just want to say, as you touched on the Villarreal angle, this doesn't surprise me at all. They tried to do this in 2018 with a fixture against Girona. Barcelona also, as we know, notably broke. Signed a massive deal with Spotify a few years ago to get the money back. 2022, they pulled every financial lever they had to activate all these signings for players that have worked out, like Rafinha and others, Lewandowski, when they actually had no money to spend. Just a year before, they couldn't even register Messi. And they've dug themselves this hole. They've sold Barcelona TV to a third party and all these things. They need money, and they need money from real revenue streams. And this is a way to give them actual revenue that they can then spend on transfers. They don't have a foreign owner. They're owned by socios. They're owned by the fans. And when you're owned by the fans, you can't have money pumped in, and you can't violate FFP and then, spread that money elsewhere. You need other revenue streams. They weren't in the Club World Cup, controversially, because of the way that tournament was awarded. Chelsea just gained, I think, 90 million or something in pure profit just from winning the tournament. And that money is great for the books, because it's not, you don't have to juice some fake sponsor or anything or whatever. Barcelona missed out on that revenue, and they're going to do anything they can to make money. And this is one extra revenue stream, one extra lever they can activate that will allow them to get a 40 million signing that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise, to compete with all the big teams in the sport. Barcelona shouldn't need to do this. They have the best academy ever. And they still chase, the shiny Danny Olmo, whoever just did well at the most recent tournament. It doesn't surprise me at all from a Barcelona perspective at all. I'm actually a little disappointed, but I'm not surprised it's them. Obviously, they have a guy named Lionel Messi who plays in Miami, and they're going to tap into that fan base. Expect to see a lot of pink jerseys in the crowd. This is a terrible precedent. It's a terrible precedent. Again, this game in a vacuum, fine, but it will just open the doors, and you will be seeing Chelsea FC playing in the United States within the next 2 to 3 years. I guarantee it. And I cannot wait for the conversation with some angry Premier League fans.
I'll be one of them. So look forward to that if it happens.
Yeah, it's going to be Chelsea versus Wolves. It's going to be a Wolves home game, so it won't be a Chelsea game.
Yeah.
And it's going to be absolutely chaotic. But yeah, this is a story to watch, and this is one we're going to keep keeping tabs on to see if this happens. Set for December 21st. Only problem, I think it's the same day that the Bengals play the Dolphins at Hard Rock. So one of those games is going to have to move, and it's not going to be the football game. So they're changing dates of fixtures. Oh, gosh. Joe, any last thoughts on this weekend of MLS, this weekend of marking the end of the transfer window? How does it feel to be back? Any concluding messages, words for the people?
Feels good to be back. It's a shame that we were gone for so long, but that's not going to be the case now. And we can, really attack the rest of this MLS season and then the whole build up to the World Cup, which I can't wait for as well. I can't believe it's less than a year away now. But MLS, I'm just excited looking forward. The transfers, I think it's been probably the best single window ever, maybe. I mean, we've had massive moves in the past. Obviously, Messi, Gerrard, Ibrahimovic, Beckham, just all these crazy players. But having so many key players in one window and of varying levels and varying ages and stages of their career, MLS is already chaos. And I think it's just going to get even more crazy. Yeah,
and I'm ready, and I'm here for it. And I had some tangents in the chamber that I let out definitely this week, and next week we're going to hope to be a little more to the point. But it's good to be back, and we'll see everyone next week recapping some more transfers going on, some more fixtures going on, and looking ahead for everything going on in 2025, 2026. See ya.